Hello friends. The 656th day of the war between Russia and Ukraine continues. Today General Syrskyi talks about the situation in the eastern direction, where the Russian army has launched an offensive along the entire front. The Russians continue assault operations in the Kupiansk, Liman, and Bakhmut sectors. In order to blockade Kupiansk, the Russians are trying to capture Sinkivka. In the Liman sector, Russia is seeking to push the Ukrainian armed forces beyond the Zarabets River and out of the Serebransky forestry area. Conducts assaults in the direction of Terny. Near Bakhmut there are attacks north and west of the city. Syrskyi states that the Russians are suffering 8 times more losses than the Ukrainians and are also losing a lot of equipment, while the Ukrainian armed forces are holding their ground. Yesterday it became known about the withdrawal of the 3rd Assault Brigade of the Ukrainian Armed Forces to the rear from near Bakhmut. The press service of this unit reported that in early December, after many months of grueling battles near Bakhmut, the 3rd Separate Assault Brigade was withdrawn from the front to the rear for restoration. After almost a year of heavy fighting near Bakhmut, in early December, the 3rd Separate Assault Brigade left the grueling sector of the front for restoration in order to become the most technologically advanced unit in Ukraine, the press service said. Now the unit is conducting training, replenishing personnel, and carrying out coordination. 3rd Brigade, formed by Azov veterans. Since the beginning of 2023, the brigade has fought near Bakhmut. Let me remind you that this brigade was the main striking force in the offensive operations carried out by the Ukrainian armed forces in this direction. Meanwhile, the Russians are advancing west of Bakhmut in a number of directions at once. Ukrainian and Russian military sources have reported this. According to the Ukrainian telegram channel Deep State, the Russians have advanced east of Bodanivka. We record foot groups and equipment already east of Bodanivka, which indicates the advance of the enemy. Unfortunately, successful assault actions of the enemy at height 188 near Hromovy have been recorded. The footage circulated by the Russians shows how their landing force is freely clearing positions and consolidating itself. In addition, the enemy has successes between Bakhmut and Yevhenii, where height 144 was lost. Further advance is halted. Events took place back in early December, but only now there was a sense to make changes. In the future, the Russians will continue to try to advance from Bakhmut to Yevhenii. But the main blow will most likely be on the road from Bakhmut to Chasiv Yar. Loss of height 199 will spoil the conditions for defense towards Yevhenii. A little to the west begins a ridge and a large height, on which already stands Chasiv Yar. Unlike Bakhmut, this town is already strategically important for the defense of the Kramatorsk agglomeration, Deep State writes. Also, Russian telegram channels report battles in the direction of Grigorivka and to the northwest towards Orakovo-Vasilivka. They also write about attempts to capture Klishchiivka south of Bakhmut, and that fighting there is taking place over one of the key heights. According to them, the plan of the Russian command is for Russian troops to enter the eastern bank of the Siversky-Donetsk-Donbass Canal, after which the Russian army can either take up defense along this line or try to capture Chasiv Yar, a key fortified area of the Ukrainian army on the way to the agglomeration Sloviansk, Kramatorsk, Drushkivka, Kostiantunivka. Further north in the Bakhmut sector, the Russians are also advancing east of Rozdalovka, writes Deep State. Rozdalovka is located north of Soldar and lies in the direction of Siversk, a fortified area of the Ukrainian armed forces. Previously, Russian military telegram channels reported the advance of their troops in the same area, including near the village of Vesely, as well as from Berestuvy and Spirne. Ukraine has not confirmed this, but the Deep State map shows an attack by Russian troops there. There is no special news from near Avdiivka. The Russians apparently gained a foothold in the northeastern part of Stepovy. At the same time, landings on the flanks are controlled by the Ukrainian armed forces, and now the fighting is moving there. To the south of Avdiivka, battles for Maryanka continue. The Russians again planted their flag on the western outskirts of the city. The footage was published by Russian media, which claimed that the Ukrainian army has no more than 2 houses left on the western border of the city, and now Ukrainian troops are building the main fortifications a few kilometers west of Maryanka. I note that recently Russian troops have already hung a flag in the western part of Maryanka. There were also statements about the capture of the city, including from Western media, but later the Russians themselves denied them. According to the Ukrainian Telegram channel Deep State, this time the Russians raised the flag a little further north. Heavy fighting for the city continues. The Russians are using both columns of equipment and small group tactics. The line of contact is now being clarified, but, unfortunately, the fact of advance is present, writes the Telegram channel. Even further south in Novomikhailivka, according to Deep State, the situation continues to worsen. According to them, the situation has worsened to the point that enemy columns are already entering the eastern outskirts of the village. So far we have been able to destroy them, but further defense is complicated by the fact that the line of combat there has been stable for more than a year since the paratroopers saved the collapse of a 15-kilometer strip that had fallen after complications in the defense of one of the brigades. For a long time, reconnaissance of both sides has already known some positions, but due to the saturation of artillery since the summer, the Russians were able to dismantle a significant part of our positions. Friends, this channel exists solely thanks to your support. If you have the opportunity and desire to support the channel, I will be very grateful to you. Thank you very much and see you in the next video.